يسلموا الابلود يسلموا الاول المفروض.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض ولم يكن له شريك في الملك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم تشهد عليهم ألسنتهم وأيديهم وأرجلهم بما كانوا يعملون. In this ayah that I've just recited, it gives us a reminder of the importance of our organs, our different limbs, our body parts. Here it says, on that day, يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ. On the day, referring to the day of judgment, when tashhadu alayhim, they will bear witness. What will bear witness? What will bear witness upon the people? Alsinatuhum wa aydihim wa arjuluhum. Their tongues, their hands, and their feet. Bima kanu ya'malun. They'll bear witness about what they did, about what they used to do. In other words, what each of these, we could say organs, body parts, the tongue, the hands, the feet, these are the ones that are mentioned in the ayah, they will act as witnesses about what their possessor, the person who had them during this life, how did the person use them? So they will bear witness. A person can't hide from that. So what's interesting is that there are numerous ayat and ahadith that tell us about the importance of all the parts of our body. And there's two ways of looking at that. We have no problem in understanding that from the physical standpoint. Like I can say, if from somebody in the medical field, right? We already understand that, okay, obviously every single part of your body has some importance. It can't be if one organ is failing that you're going to be it doesn't matter, I got plenty of others, it's not that important. Just some simple examples, if somebody's somebody's kidney is failing, they might think, okay, it's all right, not a big deal. You know, I'm breathing well right now, like I'm feeling okay right now. But then what happens? That kidney, its function will be linked to other parts of the body, right? Let's say, okay, it'll cause your electrolytes to go off balance, and that'll cause some problems with the rhythm of your heart. Or somebody has some really bad injury on their hand, let's say. Right? It looks like maybe it's infected. He's not taking care of it. He's not going to the hospital to get it checked out. It turns to some severe infection. Then that infection can go in the blood, spread all over, and next thing you know, it could turn to a life-threatening situation. Right? So that's not surprising. We can understand that concept, that all the different body parts have their importance. You can't just neglect one and say it's not important. And what we think, if I was going to ask you, well, what's the one that we need to take the most care of? Probably we'd say the heart, even from the physical sense, right? We know. Okay, it doesn't matter if everything else is good. If your heart is failing, you're probably not going to, survive long. That's why we call it. Okay, somebody has cardiac arrest, etc. They're not going to be able to survive. It doesn't matter how good the rest initially was. And this is also highlighted in the hadith, where it says, "Ala wa inna fil jasadi mudghah," that there is a piece of flesh. Isn't it? Beware that there is a piece of flesh in the heart. إِذَا صَرَحَتْ صَرَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. When it is sound, when it's in good shape, the whole body is in good shape. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. When it is corrupt, in other words, when it's, let's say, when it's corrupted, when it's whether it's imperfect, when it has problems, then when it is spoiled, then the whole body is going to be spoiled. It's going to be corrupted. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. And be aware that it is the heart, the qalb. So again, from the physical standpoint, we can understand that. But what's being alluded to here is that not only is it true, like these words in the Quran and the Hadith, they are true in the physical sense. We can even take that interpretation from it when we're talking about the heart. That you got to take care of your heart in the physical sense as well. But in the long term, what is being emphasized here is the spiritual importance. One in this hadith of the heart, and in the other ayah that are cited of each of the limbs that a person has. Like I mentioned, it mentions the tongue, the hand, the feet, and those are just examples. So that is just one concept to be aware of. We have to be, in general, we have to realize that we have to take care of whatever action we do with any of our limbs. It's not just about we think, okay, we're making our surah, we're reciting the Quran, and we do our basic requirements, and then a person, uses their hand to do some impermissible act. They use their tongue to, say things that are impermissible. They use their feet to, help them walk towards some place where they shouldn't be. Just a general concept. And we could take so long to talk about each of the body parts then, and each of the limbs, and what importance they have in the spiritual sense. But of course, we can't cover all of that in one reminder. So, what I wanted to just highlight today is the first one that's mentioned in that ayah, where it says, يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْسِنَتُهُم. Their tongues, that the tongues will be one of those things that testify against us, or for us if it's used for good, but being mentioned here, how it acts as a witness on the Day of Judgment. And in another ayah, it is stated that مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. That he does not, meaning a person does not say anything, he does not make any statement, except that there is a raqib, an observer, a monitor, we can say, an observer who is prepared, like he's ready to record. He's ready to record, that referring to the angel. There's an angel that is ready to record each and every statement that we make. It's not like, the recorder has to be turned on, like, when you're trying to take picture of something with your phone and you got to make sure, oh, your camera, oh, I didn't have my camera ready, I couldn't get it recorded. It's not like that. This is already, the angel who is assigned for this, he is prepared at all times that any statement we make, according to the Mufassirin, when they look at this, that the preferred opinion we see from some of the Mufassirin, such as Ibn Kathir, they say that it refers to any statement, whether it's good, bad, permissible, any utterance from our tongue will be recorded. So, this tells us about the importance of the tongue. And it's something we hear about often, and we really can't have enough reminders about it. We see the severity of it by just in so many ayat. We get an idea of the severity, the importance of, the consequences that the tongue can have. Like even when the warning is given, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. Why do you, O you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? In that ayah, again, it's basically talking about a particular situation. People would be saying, oh, I did this and that, I participated in that battle. They tell stories. It happens now too. People are like, oh yeah, I was there when this happened, and I did this and I did that, when they didn't actually do it. So then the ayah is giving the warning that, what you say has consequences. They're being told, why do you say that which you did not actually do? So what is that about? It's about the tongue, right? It's about the tongue, the words that we speak. So this is something that people, we're often, we might be neglectful of this, might not even pay attention to what we're saying. Like often, it's like the words just kind of flow off of our tongue and we don't even know what we said. If you ask us afterwards, oh, do you remember you said this and this? You're like, did I really say that? I don't think so. Especially if a person is upset or angry or something, then if you ask them, why did you say this? They might not even remember what they said. It's as if they're, in a state of intoxication or something, in anger. They can't even remember what happened. And they're like, you said this, you talked about this person like that, you said this about your family, that, and they're like, they might not even be aware. But that's why every statement we make is recorded. So this is why there's so many reminders of it. It's something with which somebody can easily slip. That's why if we look at some of the hadith about the concerning the tongue and how to guard the tongue, like in one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir falyaqul khayran aw liyasmut." That whoever believes in Allah and the last day, wal yawmil akhir, that same day that we're talking in the ayah that it says, "Yawma tashhadu alayhim alsinatuhum." Right, when the tongues will be bearing witness. So the one who believes in Allah and that last day, then he should say good, فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ, or he should remain silent. And in another hadith, when we talk about like how do you define the person who is the best of Muslims, the Prophet ﷺ was asked this. We might be wondering that too, right? So one of the companions, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, who is the best of Muslims? And that's when the Prophet ﷺ gave this famous hadith. In response, he said, Man salim al-muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. The one from whose tongue and hands other Muslims are safe. So hands we can understand. That means like physical harm to somebody, right? Whether it's through, like oppression or hurting somebody, fighting with somebody, taking things with their, taking things that belong to them. That's with the hands. So the best of Muslims is one from that the best of Muslims is the one from whose hands other people are safe, other Muslims are safe, but not only just the hands, from whose tongue the other Muslims are safe as well. So that what do we get from this by reading all these hadith? It tells us that the tongue can have so many consequences, and it's something that can be difficult to control without the proper effort and attention. This was true at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It was true, let's say, from not just more than 1,000 years ago, not just a few hundred years ago, not just a century ago, but it's true now as well. But the thing is that it's always been a challenge. But now, the way we have our communication, it may become even more of a challenge. Because sometimes we rarely speak. You know, within the same household, people might rarely talk to each other. Instead, what are they doing? You know, they're texting, somebody's right next to somebody else, they're texting, they're, you know, putting some, you know, whatever medium, social media platform, they're sending messages on there. They're not even using their eyes, they're taking a picture, you know, and then showing each other that, regardless of how close or how far they may be. And then what happens? Somebody says something on there, somebody posts something. Then it's not that you're just worried about the people in your immediate vicinity that will hear that and they may spread it to others, like there's some rumors, let's say, or an insult to somebody else, some joke about somebody. Right, so in the past, that would be something challenging too, because you'd have to worry about, let's say, people in the town hear it, then it'll spread like a fire all around. Now, you're not just worried about the same household or the same town, but of course, within a matter of seconds, you know, it spreads all over the world. So, that's why, because of these, or you could say our modes of communication now, it's even easier to fall into those traps that are warned about with the tongue. And then we may ask, you know, does that even count as a tongue, you know, if we're actually just typing something or putting a message on the phone? But, you know, this is not really, the concept of that is not something new. Of course, in the past, people would communicate by writing, right? And that's why, for example, the famous scholar, Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he stated that the actions of writing, when a person writes, then that falls under the same rulings as the tongue. Even gestures. You know, somebody like, you know, we're together, somebody's like pointing, oh, this guy, that, you know, like pointing at something, that they stated, if we read the rulings, the ahkam pertaining to this, to the matters of the tongue, they say the gestures can also fall into that. Right? So we can't think that, okay, we're just remaining silent, and instead we're just communicating electronically, so then it doesn't apply to us. That's, you know, that in fact, it's you could say it's even more of a danger. It's not like we're saving ourselves from that. Like, think, if you look at the ayat that pertain to the tongue, these are the things, if we look at what happens today, it's exactly what's mentioned. Like first it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la yaskhar qawmun min qawmin, asa an yakunu khayran minhum. That, oh, you who believe, do not mock, a group of you should not mock others. They should not make fun of them. The people who are being made fun of may actually be better than the ones who are doing the mocking. Right? And you think about that. How often does that happen? Right? Somebody says something that we don't like and we just start, you know, insulting them. And then not only that's something we can understand. Okay, mocking somebody, that's something we should avoid. But then what about when you have some suspicions about somebody, you know, like you think, hey, what's this guy? Why did this person say that? Why did this person do that? Why did he go there? You know, why was he talking with that person? And then, you know, whether it's in person or I said like through the electronic medium, like you see somebody post some pictures about somebody, there's some video, oh look, this person was doing this or saying this, and it starts spreading everywhere. So what is that? That's, what are people doing in that case? They're spreading rumors. They're spreading suspicion about people. And is it verified? No. These things, usually they're not going to be, most of the time, they're not going to be verified. And this is what's warned against in that same surah, Surah Hujurat, where it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu jtanibu kathiran min adh-dhann. That all you who believe, avoid a lot of suspicion. Majority of suspicion. Inna ba'da adh-dhanni ithm. Because some of suspicion is a sin. In other words, if you have unfounded suspicion about somebody, unverified reports, and then you're spreading that and you're delving into that, that could be sinful. But what's interesting here again, it says try to avoid this suspicion, rumors. Avoid it, Why? Not because all of it or the majority of it is automatically going to be sinful, but some of it is. Some of it is. Inna ba'd al-dhanni ithm. Because there's a possibility that some of that suspicion that we may have of others is actually, let's say it's some false rumors, it's some insult, it results in some sin. Because of that possibility, even though we're not talking about the majority, it's less than the majority. Ba'd al-dhann. You know, ba'd, majority meaning of it's like some, like less than 50%, usually. Right? So, because of that chance, we should be avoiding those suspicions. So, again, I'm mentioning this because it's not just about our tongues. Now, if we just reflect on how we act, what are we exposed to? You know, everybody goes, let's say on Facebook, Twitter, this and that, you see. Just look at what's there. Majority of it, conversations people are having about others, a lot of times you're going to see, most of the time, it could fall under one of these categories. And then we would be guilty of taking part in that. In fact, this, you know, the whole idea of something spreading quickly, you know, like they're talking about, oh, this, you know, viral post, this and that, it spreads all over. The effects of that, we can see are already, there's a similarity to what the Prophet ﷺ also alluded to in a hadith, in which he said that he warned against a person cursing their own parents. He warned against a person cursing their own parents. And, you know, the Sahaba, they would say, like, you know, who would do that? And then the Prophet ﷺ said that will happen if that happens when a person, he swears and curses and insults at somebody else's parents, somebody else's family. And then as a result of that person will do the same about your family. And then what happened? That spreads. It's a chain reaction, right? One person makes an insult, then the other person would make the insult back, and then at that time they would have maybe a tribe of people, they'd have a town, they'd have groups, it would spread amongst them. That same idea, right? So think about what happens now. Somebody says something or posts something about somebody else, it'll spread so quickly. But the degree of that spread, you know, it's like having like a candle versus like a forest fire, right? Now we're dealing with forest fires in terms of how fast these things can spread. So, again, the point of this is that at least we can pay attention to the words that we are saying, to the words that we are typing, to what we're messaging. That'll give us a chance. Like, we pay attention, we want to think before we make the statement, not afterwards, and then regret it and try to, you know, clean it up. And then also, just like other sins, we should make istighfar for our sins, right? So then, that includes what was said by our tongue. Every day, at the end of the day, we should reflect. A person should think, you know, what did I say? Try to review everything that was said, and then if there's something that seems like it, you know, was wrong, he should make istighfar, say astaghfirullah. He should seek forgiveness for that. But if we have the habit of speaking uncontrollably, like I said, we don't even know what was said, then it might be hard to do that, to take into account what exactly was said even. So, that's why really the advice that was given by the Prophet ﷺ, that he said, what should a person do? A person should just say something good or remain silent, right? So like it's like a training. It's difficult, but there's a training involved. Just like we talked about the body, it takes time to get the body healthy, get into good habits. You know, you want to get your, you know, somebody said, oh, I really got to get my, you know, my heart, my this into good shape. It takes time. You know, it's not going to happen overnight. But at least, let's say you talk about the diet. Somebody starts to take control of what they're eating. They try to slowly make changes. Then it takes time before the effect is seen. That's in the physical sense. So the same principle that we are already trained to follow in the physical, with our physical bodies, we have to try to apply them to our spiritual selves as well. So that's why, you know, we know that on that day, يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ وَأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. You know, we know that our body is going to be, you know, testifying either for or against us. First of all, we make dua that Allah saves us from having to deal with that account. That's the best, you know, like, you know how nowadays people, like, the best thing is if there's like some accusation made, some complaint is raised, they want to say the best news would be a person who's accused of something, oh, the case was dismissed by the court. He doesn't even have to go to the court. Once you have to go to the court, then you got to deal with everything, all the testimony, all the, back and forth, etc. So that's the first thing we hope for. We don't even have to have the account. That's what we make dua for that we could be amongst those who were spared from that. But if we have to deal with that, the detailed account, everybody has their account, but I'm saying the full detailed account. We're all going through all this, like our body parts are all testifying. We got to be aware of that. We know that this witness is going to be given, testimony is going to be given. So if we get into a habit of using it for good, our tongues for good, then the potential reward from that is also tremendous. So again, this was just a brief reminder with the hope that that's something we need, myself included, we need this constant reminder of this. That's how difficult of a task it is, to try to control the tongue. So we make dua that Allah makes us amongst those who can be rewarded for the actions that their tongue has and not be punished on that day. Then before the salah, we proceed with the brief khutbah in Arabic. Alhamdulillah. الحمد لله استعينه واستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوم تشهد عليهم ألسنتهم وأيديهم وأرجلهم بما كانوا يعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم. وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله استعينه واستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines and fill in the gaps. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اجتنبوا كثيرا من الظن إن بعض الظن إثم ولا تجسسوا ولا يغضب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه واتقوا الله إن الله تواب رحيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله
واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just have a couple of quick announcements, inshallah. First and foremost, please join us tonight after Maghrib for our brother Umar's aqiqah for his newborn child. Jazakumullah khairan. And then a couple more things. This weekend, inshallah, as like every single week, inshallah, Fajr breakfast after Salat al-Fajr on Saturday and Sunday. And finally, please join us for the youth program Saturday after Asr, tomorrow, inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.